Hi, this is Dave, and before we get to the show, I wanted to ask you a favor. One of our goals this year is to grow the show so that What Does Star Wars Mean to You reaches more listeners. And that's where we're asking you for help. And it's really easy. Wherever you listen to us, please hit that subscribe button. If you're liking the show, give us a 5-star rating and review on the platform you listen to us. We make a lot of fun of the algorithm and the smash that button thing, but it really does help us get noticed by new fans. And if you want to join in on the conversation, find us on social at Star Wars Mean to You. That's Star Wars Mean, the number 2 in the letter U. Now, let's chat some Star Wars.
Hello there, this is Elora, and I'm a prequel trilogy kid.
And this is Dave, and I'm an original trilogy kid. And you're listening to What Does Star Wars Mean to You, the show where we talk to all kinds of fans of the franchise, from industry insiders to indie artists, from obsessive mythologists to mega collectors, all for one goal: to take the hate out of the debate by focusing on one fan at a time to find out what does Star Wars mean to you. Plus, it's just fun to chat Star Wars.
We think so. Welcome to our episode between episodes, also sometimes called our mini-sode, depending on my mood. This is where Dave and I deep dive on our favorite aspects of our guest interviews and just kind of generally talk about what's interesting to us each week. And we have kind of reformatted if you're just tuning into season 3 for the first time. So we're going to kick things off with our Holocron recap.
So last week we spoke with voice actor Marc Thompson, and it was incredible to talk to him. He is the narrator for a ton of Star Wars audiobooks, and over 40 audiobooks, and he does a tremendous job of bringing the characters, the voices of the characters to his performance. So you feel like, you feel like you're seeing and reacting to the characters more than just the story of the novel.
Yeah, well said.
And he was really fun to talk to. What was your favorite moment with our conversation with Marc?
I had two. I mean, honestly, the moment we signed on was probably it really set the tone for the interview. He's so much fun to talk to. He's got great energy. You can tell that he's a super fan that is living his dream, which is always my favorite. You always want to root for people who get to live their dreams like that.
Yes.
The amount of script and character work that goes into narrating an entire audiobook, I think we all know. We all know that it's a single actor playing everybody.
Yes.
But the theater kid in me was kind of I don't know, I think hearing him describe his process, it really took me back to beating out my own scripts and really diving into my own characters. But that was, a single role within an ensemble of cast.
That's what I was just thinking.
Yeah. I don't think it had really sunk in just how much work it is to do that for every single character spoken within the novel, but then also the narration of the novel as well. I mean, there's the action sequences. There's really kind of, they're setting the mood for what's happening at any given time and how the audience should be feeling. It gave me a deeper appreciation for when I listen to an audiobook, any audiobook in any franchise, what went into making that happen.
That was so impressive. And I loved how he took us through his process and kind of spelled it out for us. It was just a really great, he was just very open. One of my favorite moments is very selfishly when I did my Vader impression for him. And it was funny. The last line from when Vader's if you don't turn to the dark side, then perhaps she will. And when I got to that line, Marc goes, "Never!" And it was just it was just a great nerd connection moment. I just loved it.
That was really fun. No, I think it's good to call out the moments that made the interview fun, even if they feel a little selfish. I think that's I think that's a silly way to phrase it. I think that there was something really fun in that moment, and I could tell he was impressed. He kind of gave me the that was a pretty good Vader.
You got it. You got it.
You got it.
I know. I blew on my nails, and I was like, "Yeah, I'm a cool guy."
Yeah, I did that. What else did you enjoy?
What you talked about his energy, and I think that's a big thing. that I found really impressive and really enjoyed was just that you can tell he's so authentically a fanboy for like geek things and so excited to be not just a part of the world, but also if he were an insurance adjuster, I think he would still be like dressing up like Jedis, holding training for lightsaber duels, like still interacting with the community in a lot of the same ways he is now, is probably would be as jubilant about it.
Yeah.
And I just, anytime someone's kind of like pure joy, I find it really, really impressive.
Yeah.
Most
no,
impressive.
I totally agree. Most impressive. I totally agree. My other favorite moment, and this is probably like, I'll keep it very surface level because like I don't want to get like too deep on our episode between episodes. But I really, I kind of spoke about this when we were guests on Hyperspace Heroes as well, because it's been on my mind a lot recently. And that's, I really appreciated how he kind of looked at Star Wars as an allegory for God. This is a conversation my husband and I actually have a lot, is like kind of like metaphysics and religion, because neither one of us necessarily subscribe to anything in particular, but we find it interesting. But he always kind of laughs because he's like, you get the most of your like kind of religious, like metaphysical guidance or outlook of the world from Star Wars. And like he kind of called that out a long time ago. So to hear Mark say that, it felt like it just gave it so much more validity, because like I kind of felt a little silly about that. But he spoke so earnestly and with such conviction about it that I realized like, oh my God, like this isn't just me being like a super nerdy fan weirdo that like,
Yes.
that is like looking to this as like for guidance on how I view the world. Like a lot of people are, and that I don't know. I found that to be really like validating and really cool that, we've all kind of looked to this great story, this myth, as a kind of a way to think about our world and good and evil and the people within it, and how we should, probably more often than not, this was Claudia's interview, not Mark's, but consider what would Princess Leia do?
Yes. We gotta make a shirt that's just what would Princess Leia do?
Yeah, Claudia Gray.
Claudia Gray, yes. Yeah. That's funny.
Sorry, I probably went on a little too long about that. But
No, not at all. I found it really interesting when he started talking, when he first said a metaphor for God. I was like, okay, tell me more. And he convinced me. His like, I don't know if it's an argument, but his viewpoint convinced me. I saw what he meant. Let's take a listen to what he had to say about it.
Okay. Yeah, I mean, it's definitely a big question. Like, like to me, it is an allegory or a metaphor. For me personally, it's an allegory and metaphor for God. Like I feel like Force is in my mind, it's God. And so it was something that as a little kid, maybe planted some seeds in me, and then as I've gotten older, it's something that helps me understand some of the really difficult things in life. Helps me to understand the things that are difficult to understand because of that lens, and that metaphor helps me, process some of those hard to explain concepts, and it's also maybe like a blueprint in a way. Like I know Jedi are not real, but like, it's like maybe like something I can look at as like, I'd like to be like that. It's like something, and it's I don't know, it might be I wear Star Wars clothing every day. I get to work on Star Wars. I do it for fun. Like I'm a part of the Saber Guild and the Rebel Legion clubs. So I'll sometimes on weekends like dress up and we go to like libraries and conventions and interact with kids and teach people, lightsaber choreography and do like lightsaber shows. And so I do it for fun. I do it for work. Like it's probably maybe a little too important to me.
So yeah, I feel like his view on the Force is so, for lack of a better term, noble, because he also, I mean, he takes this view to like do the Saber Guild, Rebel Legion clubs, volunteering, and I think that's an aspect of the spiritual community, is like establishing.
Yeah.
But let's dive a little deeper into the data pad of something interesting he said. So during our discussion, he brought up Rogue One because Andor is so present right now. We thought we'd dive in a little bit more on what he was talking about in Rogue One, and let's throw to that clip.
All right. Well, I know everybody's going to have different opinions about this, but what makes it Star Wars for me is like, I think something to do with the light side and dark side of the Force. Like, so for me, I really need Jedi in the story. Like, I know there's other practitioners of the Force other than the Jedi, and part of why I like Rogue One is that you had Chirrut in there, and the Guardians of the Wills. So like that gave me my Force fix, But I need something with the Force for it to feel like Star Wars for me.
His Force fix. What did you think of that?
You know what? I feel the need for the Force fix.
I love all these nuggets. Like, I love the easy like bumper stickers that come out of our interviews sometimes. Like, what would Prison Leia do? Did it get my Force fix? Like, it's not Star Wars if I don't get my Force fix. Like, something along those lines.
Yes.
So good. Rogue One. We haven't talked about Rogue One on this podcast in a while.
We haven't. We haven't. I kind of put Andor in the same kind of like umbrella as Rogue One, as if Andor is like, if Rogue One is episode 3, Andor season 1 is episode 1, and Andor season 2 is episode 2.
That's kind of how they've been building it, though.
Yeah,
I mean, I feel like you're dead on.
Yeah.
Rogue One was very different than all the other films in kind of the Star Wars franchise as we know them. It was a standalone Star Wars story. Yeah. Everyone already knows this, but with its focus on like the rebellion's efforts to get the Death Star plant. First off, it's my favorite Star Wars film, I think. Like, no offense to the trilogies we all know and love, but it's such a good film. It's like actual cinema.
Yes.
And there's so much at stake. Like, in terms of like watching your favorite, franchise in story order versus release order, it really sets the stage for what's at stake within the greater Star Wars story. They had a lot to accomplish with that film, and they did it. And that's always exciting when filmmakers like, they just nail it.
Yeah, exactly. They hit it out of the park in a surprising way that you didn't even know you wanted.
Exactly. Like, it was the movie we didn't know was missing, but we needed. So I think we wanted to kind of talk about, like, how does the Force play its role in Rogue One, and what makes it unique compared to the greater Star Wars cinematic universe.
And it's really fascinating because, Rogue One is one of those, Rogue One and Andor is one of those elements of Star Wars that I think helped contribute to my idea of this show, which is watching it feels like Star Wars, but it has no real Force user. It didn't have lightsabers and lightsaber battle, except for at the very end when Darth Vader went apeshit on everyone.
Possibly not so much of a hot take, one of the best movies in Star Wars. But anyway.
Exactly. But it's very fascinating that a franchise where the strongest icon in it is the Jedi and the lightsaber, and they don't have any of that in Rogue One. I think it's very daring, and I also think it surprisingly refreshing after some time for me to get used to it, quite frankly.
Yeah. To have a Star Wars film without a Jedi protagonist.
Yes. That's
a tall order. But there is somebody who's very powerful with the Force.
Well, yeah. I mean, they still have elements of the Force in there with Chirrut. Chirrut. I swear I was pronouncing his name perfectly earlier, and now I'm like...
Chirrut, right? Yeah.
Yeah, I think you have to kind of throw it away. Chirrut. And he... I don't think acolyte's the right word. He's more of a non-user of the Force who is part of the religion of the Force.
Yeah, his character for me kind of establishes that, like, for some in the galaxy, the Force isn't something that they wield. It's more of like a belief in a faith system.
Yes.
And his character, correct me if I'm wrong, but I think his character was part of the religious temple that protected the Kyber Temple. Or sorry, the religious order that like protected the Kyber Temple on Jedha prior to the occupation. Yeah.
Yes, he's considered a guardian of the Wills, which means he is deeply connected with the Wills, a spiritual entity within the Star Wars universe. And I think the Wills also had a hand in, and when I say the Wills, I mean the spiritual entity, not the guardians of the Wills. But
right.
I think the Wills have a hand in midichlorian count too, and controlling that a little bit. And what's interesting is, in the novelization of Star Wars, the first one, A New Hope, it opens with a quote from the Guardians of the Wills. There is a reference to it.
Okay.
So I just thought that was really cool that they kind of like worked that in to it.
Well, and his faith is what allows him to, I think, perform feats that would otherwise be considered like miraculous.
Yes.
Due to his, his disability. I mean, it's become so much of who he is, that I am the Force and the Force is with me.
Yes.
His spiritual
I'm one with the
kind
Force
of,
and the Force is with me.
his spiritual connection and how the Force like guides his actions and sometimes I think even his motivations and his read on people. Like, I think it's a really striking example of how the Force is kind of like living, not to bring John Jackson Miller's book back into this, but like it all connects.
Yes, it does.
And those who pay attention and who choose light and faith and like goodwill tend to almost like be rewarded by it.
Yes.
Or guided by it. Yeah.
Well, yes, like he's open to it. So he may not be able to wield the Force like Luke or Obi-Wan, but maybe the Force can wield him a little bit, and he opens himself up to that so that he could be guided by the hand of the Force. That's interesting. Yeah.
Yeah, it adds a lot of depth to the mythology of like what the Force is in the Star Wars universe and how it operates, and that, just the energy and how different kind of living things access it in different ways, some being much more sensitive to the point where they can actually manipulate it.
Yes.
Yeah, I think that's a good word.
And I also find it very interesting what it kind of means to the greater galaxy. There's two parts of it. Is one, I feel like there could be a lot of different religions based around the Force. I mean, even in the Acolyte, where you had, I don't know if they were the witches of Dathomir, but you had the witches.
The Coven.
The Coven. And they were, like, their kind of religion derived from the Force, but from a different point of view of it. And then the Guardians of the Wills have a different kind of point of view and understanding of it, which I think is really fascinating, because I think reality is that way. That people have, like, there's different sects, but people just kind of have a different understanding of what religion or God is and define it from that POV.
Yeah, absolutely. I think this is very emblematic of what Mark was saying.
Yes.
I have 1,000 different thoughts like going on at once. I think what's interesting in Chirrut's kind of Force sensitivity is and how it's portrayed in the film is how much sacrifice is like a core theme.
Yes.
And seems to be almost like how the Force, like, I don't know, I don't like the word like rewards, because I feel like that makes it way more conscious than it actually is, but like guides. That, like, it's often like it's what guides a lot of the characters throughout the Star Wars franchise to like give up something willingly for something more profound and like for the greater good. And the Jedi do this, to the extreme. They have to literally let go of everything outside of being a Jedi. But then you have the kind of like the dark side, the corruption of it, where the Sith, like, they flip it over on its head, and rather than like the selflessness the sacrifice is like the sacrifice of others for their own personal gain.
Yes, that's absolutely yes. I love it.
But then you have Chirrut, who I was thinking about this a lot last night. You have Chirrut, who like he's like the perfect example of like when you have goodwill and you trust it and you go in with this kind of more self-sacrifice, like letting go of fear. There's a larger destiny. Like I think the best example of that kind of good over evil with the Force, like, you know, winning in Rogue One is when he's crossing the battlefield and he's just being shot at and nothing's hitting him until he accomplishes his goal.
Yeah.
And then he goes, okay, I sacrifice myself now. Like, you got me to this point. I'm literally getting goosebumps thinking about it. It's one of my favorite moments in the film because it's like, I just feel like it's so emblematic of like how the light side of the Force is so much more powerful than the dark.
Yes.
If you are not afraid to sacrifice and to use it for good.
Yeah.
It's so much easier to be angry and to sit in resentment or to feel negative about something. It's a lot harder to do hard work and to like see things for the better or to forgive or to, you know, like move past. And I think that that's why there is so much hatred in our world, and not to get like super rosy, like going full circle, metaphysical, like, you know, as an allegory for, you know, religion or whatever. But like, I think it's a really good message for like evil rarely actually does win in the end.
Yes, because I feel like maybe evil only destroys while you need to build up in order to truly win.
I just rambled for like 5 minutes. Please, what's on your mind?
No. That was a good ramble. Oh, I know. Another aspect about Rogue One that I think fits nicely within the greater Star Wars world and in the use of the Force is the idea that Jedi aren't just abundantly around. And of course they're not around at this time because it's the dark times and they've all been eradicated or forced into hiding. But I think a lot of these people would go through life without running into a Jedi. I mean, as a viewer, I'm seeing the internal workings of the Jedi during the prequel trilogy. But I think a lot of people in the galaxy aren't seeing that internal working. They may, I consider it like my relationship to a monk in Asia. You know, I don't know anything about them. I know they exist, but they could have mythic powers that I don't understand, and I know they don't. But imagine living in a world where there are monks with laser swords running around, but you don't ever see them, you just hear about them. And then all of a sudden they're gone, and you're like, well, did they exist at all?
Which comes up in the sequel trilogy. Yeah.
Yes. And so I think that's what like Rogue One in its use of the Force kind of lays the groundwork for, so that the viewer can understand when you get to Tarkin saying to Darth Vader, their light has been all but extinguished and you're the last of their kind. You understand that the rest of the galaxy probably has already moved on anyway.
Oh, that's so true. I got goosebumps again.
Oh.
Yeah. No, it is because it just shows how much is at stake. From the galaxy falling into complete darkness. Do you find that like the lack of the Jedi, does it make the Force feel less mystical or more mystical?
That's I kind of wish Andor or Rogue One would directly address that in a way of like, how do all these people see the Force? Do they see it like I see the Pope being a religious like spearhead, or is it just like these crazy people like Uncle Lars? Uncle Lars, and it's not Uncle Lars, Uncle Owen. It's
Owen. Oh, I was like, wait, who are we in the universe?
Yeah.
Okay, Owen. Yes.
Yeah. It's like Uncle Owen saying, "Oh, that crazy old hermit, he's just some wash up." I forget the question.
I was asking if you felt like it made it seem less or even more mystical.
Okay.
Yeah.
I feel like it, to me, the way it stood right now, it feels less mystical But, there are characters like Chirrut who carry the ideals of the Force, even though he's not a Force user, which I think is really fantastic. I also like his friend, and I forget his friend's name, but who doesn't seem to really care about the Force, but really cares about Chirrut. And I think that's wonderful.
Do you feel like, though, the Force becoming somewhat less mystical, do we feel like at this point in the Star Wars story, that's actually necessary moving forward? That it goes from being this, like, they're the monks with the laser swords that are kind of like do they exist, do they not? They're supposed to be keeping balance, but they allowed Darth Vader to happen, so what's going on? And, there's this kind of like mumbling throughout the galaxy. Was that necessary for them to get to the point where they were able to destroy the Death Star, where people did have hope, where more and more Force sensitive, people open their eyes, kind of?
Yes, no, and I think another way of looking at it is they realize a hero's not going to step in and save them, and they're going to have to do something themselves. And luckily, a hero does rise from that, like Luke does rise from that, but, he's got a lot of personal shit going on, too. He's like, I'm angry at my dad. He's trying to convert me. But I do think in a way for the Empire to have the control over the people, they had to lose hope, and to lose hope, they had to lose expectation from the Jedi or what the Jedi represented to them at the time.
And find it within themselves.
I am one with the Force, and the Force is with me.
Force is with me. It's kind of like the Force is a metaphor for optimism.
Yes, which could be said, bringing it back to Mark, optimism is God. So if the Force equals optimism and optimism equals God, Star Wars is God.
I'm really proud of us for bringing that full circle. I think that we
stuck the landing.
Stuck the landing on that one. Oh my God. Should we talk about how we Star Wars this week before we get too deep in the metaphysical weeds?
Yes. Yeah. Well, so now's the time we talk about how we Star Wars this week.
It's my favorite time of week.
I'm just going to jump in and go first because I'm a selfish guy.
No.
I finished my Andor rewatch, my Andor season 1 rewatch, and thought, I have to say, the second time through, even better than the first time.
Really?
Yes. I feel like I picked up on a lot more little details that they had added in that kind of
like that nuance.
The nuance and setting of themes and character arcs. There's some really interesting things like in the very famous One Way Out, which is the prison escape episode, where we discover that Andy Serkis's character can't swim.
Oh, devastating. Yeah.
I know, right? But the episode is called One Way Out, and at the same time that they're doing that escape, Luthen is doing his famous monologue. I noticed so Luthen's monologue ties to that title, One Way Out, because he's talking about his only way out, which is to kind of die before he sees the fruits of his labor. He's saying, I burn my decency for someone else's future. I burn my life to make a sunrise that I know I'll never see. And what he's saying is that is his one way out. And I thought that was like a great kind of brilliantly written thematic match to what was happening in the prison. And I think I may have this order of events wrong, but I'm pretty sure I have it right. When Andor goes to prison, that's roughly the time when Cyril has to go live with his mother. And
oh, yes.
There's that sense of Cyril being in prison as well. Or Cyril. I think it's Cyril.
It sounds more Star Warsing to be Cyril.
Right. It sounds more Star Wars to be Cyril, but I feel like I remember it being Cyril because I was watching it and thinking, oh, he eats cereal. Hence his name is
coming back. I feel like you made
Cyril.
This joke the first time. Yeah.
Did I? Did it? Yeah. But I like Cyril. It's also easier for me to say.
It sounds like that's some foreshadowing that I also missed on Cassian's character too. I mean, on all of them, like all of them that kind of come to form Rogue One.
Absolutely. And another kind of interesting contrast is Cassian's mother versus Cyril's mother. How Cyril's mother is very like, she is the Empire. She's overbearing, she's demanding, she tells Cyril exactly what he has to do without giving him any options. And that's the same way the Empire is. And then Marva is kind of like the other end of the spectrum of that, where she's very, you have to make your own choice. You have to stand on your own. You have to figure things out. You have everything you need to do what you need to do, Cassian. Go do it. Yeah. Where Cyril's mother is not like that at all. So I thought it was fantastic rewatch.
I'm excited to do my own rewatch. That's awesome. I did not rewatch Andor this week. I did watch Rogue One.
Oh wow!
Which I always know going in it's going to be emotionally damaging, and then it still kind of blows me away that it's like it never fails to be as emotionally damaging upon a rewatch as it is the first time. But I was inspired to because of our guest next week. Our interview with her, we were talking a lot about Andor and the kind of placement of Rogue One in the story and how impactful that is, especially to somebody who is newer to the Star Wars franchise. More about Rose later, but I wanted to rewatch it kind of with that in mind, and so that was gutting. I don't know if I have anything as poignant to say about it as you just did about your watch of Andor, other than to say that I'm really looking forward to season 2, and you're pointing out Luthen's monologue also makes me skeptical of his story in season 2. He's not in Rogue One, and I think that we all know why. I'm just curious to see how his story ends. Yes. I also, on like the fun side of how did I Star Wars this week, my husband and I had our 5th wedding anniversary, and I got
congratulations.
Thank you. He gifted me R2-D2 and C-3PO, the Lego like full size sets.
Yes.
Oh, I'm so excited. I'm kind of like, first off, shout out to him because he did the right thing. He told me that he stood in the store for like 20 minutes and couldn't decide on which droid. So he made the correct decision and brought them both home.
That's awesome. Can he be my husband?
I know, right? But now I'm trying to figure out like the game plan for assembly. Because they're both over like 1,100 pieces. I know it's going to take a lot of time. I can't remember the last time I put together a Lego set of this size. So, question to our listeners, if you have suggestions on how to best organize and assemble R2-D2 or C-3PO, hit me up. I would love your Lego advice. Yeah, I would love to know everybody's like, because I'm a very like organized kind of OCD level person. So give me your best advice.
You're an expert craftsperson.
I mean, I try, but no.
Also, let us know how you Star Wars this week. Hit us up on social at Star Wars Mean to You. That's Star Wars Mean, the number 2 and the letter U. You know, the joy of Star Wars is just sharing like the impact of Star Wars. So like hearing how you Star Wars each week is pretty awesome.
Yeah, or just sharing Star Wars.
So that's what Star Wars means to us this week. And I gotta say, I felt like a pretty deep meaning this week.
Yeah, Star Wars, we had us in our feels this week for sure.
Yeah. And next week, we're really excited to welcome Rose Hawk to the show.
And to the fandom.
You're absolutely right. Good call. She is artist and
influencer.
Influencer, kind of.
I think that's new to her as well. Yeah.
Yes. Yeah, I think that's new to her as well. 3 or 4 weeks ago, she posted herself watching Star Wars for the very first time, and it kind of took off. And she has watched episodes 1 through 6, posting her reactions to each one, and then watched Rogue One. And
I think she started Rebels as well. Yeah.
Oh, yes.
Yeah.
and we get to talk to her. And it's a lot of fun because this is someone who literally was just introduced to Star Wars and really became, I think maybe a hardcore fan is too much of hyperbole, but
she self-described it as having a huge influence on her life. So
Yes.
I don't know if that's hyperbolic or not. I thought it was really fun to, I don't know. It's not often that you get to watch somebody watch your favorite franchise for the first time. And it kind of felt like when you're that friend on the couch that's introducing something to another friend and you're like staring at them as they're watching, like, do you like this? Is it good? Like, do you have any questions? Like,
But the difference is 1 million people are watching her on the couch that way.
Literally, almost 1 million people are watching her on the couch that way and counting. She's super fun. She's got just like some mind-blowing like perspectives and insights as somebody like kind of coming to it for the first time and as an adult, which I think is really cool. She was catching like nuances in the story that I think we become immune to is not the right terminology, but like maybe take for granted or didn't catch as deeply when it was introduced to us as children. I'm excited for y'all to hear this, and I'm also excited for everyone to keep following her Star Wars journey. She is a massive fan. Yeah.
Yes. So that's next week. And if you're liking the show, please subscribe to us, give us a 5-star rating, or share it with a friend. Just like we shared it with Rose Hawk.
Yeah, we were her first podcast. You should come listen. It's a good conversation.
Until then, may the Force be with you.
And with you, Dave.
Next week, we're talking to Mark Newbold. He has been a writer for the Star Wars Insider since 2006, contributed to the My Star Wars, Red 5, and Launchpad sections, as well as feature articles and interviews. He's
the tracks?
Yeah, he's the editor-in-chief. Somehow I wanted it to be editor-of-chief. No, it's editor-in-chief of Fanta Tracks, which launched in October 2017, which is a great kind of like Star Wars aggregate site. I don't think aggregate's the right word. And he's an
awesome guy.
Yeah, and he's been a fan since 1978 when he saw his first Star Wars. Mm-hmm. And it's really excited to have him. And he's a great guest.
Yeah, it's a really fun interview.
Again, with the optimism. He was a very like pro-optimism guy, and it's fun to talk to.
It is. It's a great... We're all about the optimism this week. I feel like we should have a guest on that's a little bit more deep into the dark side of things and like try to balance some of this out. Let's get into the root of like what is that? What makes you tick?
Yeah. I agree. I think that's a good call. So if you're bitter sour pants, just
all of our Darth Vader fans are sitting here like, okay, well, I'm done listening to your show. F you guys. Yeah, no. We love you too.
But no, seriously though, give us a shout on socials. You can reach us at Star Wars Mean to You. That's Star Wars Mean, the number 2 and the letter U. And if you're really enjoying the show, and I just didn't insult you with the bitter sour pants comment,
rate and subscribe.
Yeah, rate and subscribe.
Don't if you're mad at us though.
Yeah, give us a 5-star rating. Give us a really good review, or just tell a friend to listen. And yeah, so that's our show for this week.
That's what Star Wars meant to us, and we'll let our post-credit blooper take you out.
Yeah, may the Force be with you.
And with you. Another way I Star Wars this week, actually, I've been putting together little like Easter gift kits for my nieces and nephew. And each one of them are getting this is hilarious. I don't know if this is going to end up in the episode. Side tangent. I was at the post office. And this all started because they had a bubble mailer that was like Easter themed that was so cute. And I was like, I had no plans to send Easter gifts to anybody. And I was like, somebody needs to receive this gift mailer. Like, I would be so overjoyed if somebody mailed me this like bubble mailer because it's so cute.
Yes. Yeah.
And so I bought it with the intent of like, well, I'll figure out what to do with it later. And I was thinking about it and I was like, well, duh, like send an Easter basket to, your nieces and your nephew. But anyway, that's a side, like, girl brain tangent. How that relates to Star Wars is I got them all as part of their little baskets. There's a, like, those, like, miniature Legos? They're like little tiny kits in the bags. They're like 20 pieces or something like that.
Yeah.
My nephew is getting the Millennium Falcon. So
oh, wow.
You got to introduce.
Does it have the little Han Solo who sits like kind of atop it? Or?
No, it's just the ship. Yeah.
It's
it's
just
one of the mini packs. Yeah.
Yes.
So it doesn't have any of the figures in it, but and it's just like part of like a larger gift. But yeah, that was the other way I Star Wars this week is I'm going to start introducing to my nephew.
Woohoo!
Woo!
That was fun.
That was fun.
Yeah.
I like it. Picasso, as the Gen Zers say.
Oh, is that what they're saying now?
There was a really funny audio that was going on TikTok that was like, I like it, Picasso. And I don't know why, but it just tickled me. And so now every time something goes well, I'm like, I like it, Picasso. And
I totally get why that
come off
tickled
like
you.
the old grandma that's like, that's so groovy when I say it, but,
yeah. No cap.
Exactly. Too funny.